Joe Biden outright mocking Republican talk of impeaching him over the real Bidenomics, which we all know is having Hunter scoop up millions of dollars overseas, spreading the wealth around to his family, and then pretending like he knows nothing about it.
Now that inflation is coming down, maybe they'll decide to impeach me because it's coming down. I don't know. I love that one. Oh, anyway, it's another story.
Joe Biden can joke all he wants, but the evidence against him keeps pouring in. IRS whistleblowers have documents that suggest the Bidens have overseas bank accounts, and Congressman James Comer revealing how sloppy they were at covering up the foreign cash flow. Banks flagging 170 suspicious activity reports alone. But hey, Hunter Biden's already accepted responsibility, so I guess we should just leave this alone.
He did attempt so far, he's a private citizen, by the way, to resolve this case and has paid the back taxes. Hunter Biden has tried to accept responsibility.
The Republicans in the House want to be in an uproar. They want to be apoplectic because, my God, preferential treatment was accorded to the son of the President of the United States of America. Why the hell wouldn't preferential treatment be accorded?
I want to move on, though, to Donald Trump and Hunter Biden. I should not have analogized those two things together in my haste. There's no comparison.
There is today zero evidence that Joe Biden, the President of the United States, knew about what his son was doing.
And instead of following the money and holding the Bidens to account, Democrats and the liberal press would rather go hog wild over new charges against Donald Trump in the classified documents case.
You just feel the news sort of tightening around Donald Trump's neck as this is all taking place.
It's such an important and dangerous moment in this case.
That's probably the final nail in the coffin on this one.
I mean, it reads like a spy novel.
The document reads like something ripped from the pages of The Untouchables.
These allegations rival anything that Richard Nixon was accused of. This indictment reads like a mafia case.
It reads like something straight out of the Gambino crime family.
An extraordinary document with so many parallels to a mafia investigation from those 60s and 70s.
Okay, Shannon Bream, please explain what we just saw.
Well, you know what else reads kind of like a spy novel is that FD 1023 form, the FBI. You know who didn't get to read that? The IRS agents who were working on the Hunter Biden case. So multiple things can be true. There can be legit allegations against the former president that he's going to have to deal with, innocent until proven guilty. He's going to have to handle that in court and have a defense to all of these claims. But that is coming against the optics of this 1023 form, the plea deal falling apart, people feeling like, wait a minute, okay, those are allegations again, they've got to be proven. But if you're so outraged about all this different conduct, why aren't you equally outraged across the board? And it's got to look like the DOJ is impartial in handling both those cases the same way.
Are you outraged, Kennedy?
I'm outraged.
You look outraged.
I tell you, Jesse, I haven't seen something like this since I watched the end of Goodfellas. You know, it's like there are steakhouse shootings, there are bodies in stand-up freezers. It's just too much. No, it's very interesting because I wonder if the roles were kind of reversed. So if Hunter Biden were not the president's son, a sitting president's son, would he be investigated and indicted differently? Would he be charged differently? And I think, you know, these are really the only parallels. And if Donald Trump weren't running for president, would they bother at all with any of this? And, you know, I think clearly the answer is no. These things would be very different. Hunter Biden, he wouldn't have a 5-year investigation. There wouldn't be this slow walk, this run up. And I was glad it was interesting because the judge this week wasn't coming at it from a political angle. She was just asking basic questions about how this thing came to be. And with a few of those questions, the whole thing fell apart so quickly. And I'm surprised that there weren't smarter people in the room when they were negotiating this together to realize that the whole thing stunk to high heaven. But, you know, now we may have something that seems like justice because the whistleblowers and the plea deal falling apart in the same week, you have to realize that there's so much there that the rationalists in Harold's party have to stop calling these things, you know, coincidences.
Yeah, Harold, what happens when they find these offshore bank accounts?
Well, first of all, it's good to be back around the table.
Yes,
I'd say a couple of things. If they find that, then there's a problem. If that exists, not that someone's concealing it. I thought what happened in the court, and I said it the other day, I thought it was an example of how our system works. When a judge is presented with parties, and it's the government and a defendant, the judge should ask if someone's going to enter a guilty plea, for the guilty plea to be entered in court, before the court, and that the person understand the rights that he or she's being afforded. And what we learned was that there was a complete misunderstanding, certainly not an agreement or a meeting of the minds between the two parties that were supposed to have agreed on these things. One party thought there was an agreement about something, the other didn't. So the thing proverbially fell apart. Now, they have 3, 4, 6 weeks to try to work out a deal. I would imagine that Hunter Biden's going to work a deal out, even if it's narrowly on these two issues. And what we did learn also is that he's under investigation still. The investigation or investigations have not ended. So, Jesse, to the point you're making, it might very well be that those matters are continuing to being investigated. Now, I do think what happened with President Trump yesterday is a serious issue from the standpoint, what's the old saying? It's not the crime, but the cover-up. And if indeed this allegation is true, this is a problem. Now, I've said all along also, you are innocent in our country until proven guilty. Former President Trump is innocent. Hunter Biden is innocent, and certainly President Biden is, because he's not been charged with anything. But I hope the politics on both sides, Kennedy, where I do agree with you, is that the politics has gotten ramped up too high. I mean, it's fine for both sides to, throw a little jello here, throw a little mess here as we get closer to the election. But at some point, they should get back to work. We got a border problem. We got a crime problem. We've got to figure out how to make the nation more competitive. So I'd love to see those things addressed as well. But this politics around these legal issues, unfortunately, I think are going to persist.
Well, you can do both. You can do that, and you can also investigate the Biden family.
The Dems, that's the only work they do. That's the only, when I was listening to that montage, I felt 2015 all over again. They actually used the same phrase, mafioso, right? That was hasn't CNN learned what that did to their brand? I mean, they're barely conscious right now as a network, and this is amazing timing as the Hunter's plea deal falls apart. That suddenly these new charges on Trump just happen to arrive, and then what are they about? Surveillance cameras? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with are those yours? Yeah. Why can't you clear them? I don't understand that. They're not like other people's emails that you then disappear, but. I'll leave that for another time because I'm not a lawyer. I'm more like a game show host. Mm-hmm. And you know what that means.
All right.
Oh. Yeah.
What about it?
It goes on for an hour. It's time for What's Worse with Greg Gutfeld, where I employ whataboutism to solve our nation's debates. Number 1. What's worse, having a phone call inquiring about influence peddling with Burisma, or actually participating in the influence peddling with Burisma?
Yes.
Pretty easy, huh? What's worse, licensing your name for a university, or creating over 20 shell companies to hide foreign income? Ooh. That's pretty easy. What's worse, calling COVID the China virus, or funneling millions of dollars from that dictatorship into the pockets of your family? Mm-hmm. What's worse, selling steaks with your name on it, or artwork for millions in exchange for plum assignments on prestigious commissions? What's worse, a president going after the press, or a president going after the people? Ooh. What's worse, saying Mexico isn't sending their best, or blaming American agents for whipping illegals? What's worse, keeping illegal kids separate from adults, or talking about your 6 grandchildren when you have 7? Ooh. Finally, what's worse, promoting taco bowls or losing all our baby formula? I have just walked you through the last 3 years to show you that whatever they accuse Trump of doing, the Bidens have been doing worse for years, and they know brazenly and arrogantly that they can get away with it because everybody turns their heads. And coughs.
I thought you were going to say what's worse, promoting taco bowls or calling Hispanics tacos.
Oh, that's a better one.
But that was a great.
You ruined it.
Greg.
Breakfast tacos. Oh.
You're going to have to workshop that again.
They'll fix it in post. It's
no,
okay.
It's live, Kennedy.
We're live now?
Right.
Ahead.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.